Hello, and welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
This is the podcast about murders and so much more. We will talk about anything strange, anything that goes bump in the night, and pretty much anything that amuses us.
And on that note, we need to mention that this podcast is not safe for work or delicate ears, so do be discerning who you listen to it with.
We also want to let you know that you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so look for us there.
Okay, and then I guess we'll introduce ourselves. She just looked at me. Oh, am I on? Okay. I am Shannon Lawrence. I am a writer, mom, wife, student, procrastinator, and you can find me at thewarriormuse.com.
My name is MB Partlow. I am a writer, an avid reader, an organizer extraordinaire, a mom to kids, cats, and a dog, and I call bullshit when I see it.
All right. I try to.
You're probably even more successsul at it than I am.
I've been in a mode lately where I've just been removing people from my life. You know, like you reach this point, and it's in the last 2 years, all the stuff that went on in my life, right? Uh-huh. You reach the point where you're like, you weren't there for me during good or bad, and you're gone. Mm-hmm. I removed somebody this week for telling me a meme I'd shared was offensive, and it was the first thing they'd said to me in ages because it had ginger in it, and she was a redhead. It was a Harry and Meghan meme, and it went with their interview with Oprah. There were like a billion of the memes, and they said, "Well then," and it was, you know, they were talking about what the royals had asked about, and of course, in reality, it was race.
Yes,
what color? They were asked about what is the child going to look like? It says it's Oprah asking the question. They said, "Oh, were they concerned he'd be a ginger?" And that was the meme I shared. So I thought it was kind of tone deaf that she could. First of all, her family's from England. Her mom moved here from England, and I thought it was very tone deaf that she called me on something like that when the reality behind it was racism.
Well, it's funny because I saw that meme and probably laughed out loud at it.
Yeah, so I was like, on the one hand, I removed it, but I also removed her. So I was like, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so I'm going to remove it. But that week I had posted the stuff going on with girl child, with her diet and all the stress, and I had posted about a health update. She hadn't commented, hadn't responded anyway, but she can start out a response to me with, "That's offensive," and then rail about how terrible it is to be a redhead, and that ginger, that like a whole thing about don't tell children that it's bad for them to be redheads, and like she just went off, and I was like, okay, bye. I was like, I never would have done that before, but I'm like, no, I'm done. If you cannot, as a friend since middle school, have responded to anything else going on in my life.
That was the hill she chose to die on.
That was the hill she chose to die on, and I was just like, I think this told me everything I needed to know about our friendship and where we stand, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete you. Like, I'm not going to fight with you. It's not worth it, but you let me know where we stand.
Well, there is a magic button on Facebook that you can, what's it called, for 30 days.
Oh, yeah, mute.
Mute somebody for 30 days, and if I mute them for 30 days, and then when they come back, I go, oh. Then I either unfriend or I unfollow. Some people I don't want to unfriend, but I'm like, I don't have to read your bullshit every day.
I went through and did a huge cleanse and deleted a bunch. I still have more than I want on there, but it was good. If the more you cleanse, the more you see of the posts you actually want to see on social media. Yeah.
You see friends and family.
Which was the whole point. So.
Yeah. So because this episode is coming out on May 26th, I do want to say happy anniversary to my husband.
Yay!
Coming up on the 29th.
Happy anniversary!
And don't ask me how many years. So
how many years is it?
28.
Oh, good for you.
28. I came up with.
I don't know. I'd have to do the math.
Right? Do that. Some numbers I can't math easily.
I'm like, it's over 20. Yeah. Oh, well, Cleo's done with you,
I
guess.
But she hasn't jumped in my lap in a long time.
Yeah. She's been... It's my oldest cat. We're discussing Cleopatra. She turns 13.
Ooh.
Since we didn't have her actual birthday, we've designated Earth Day as her birthday. So it's like the 22nd.
Sounds good.
Of this month. Whatever. So she'll be 13.
Wow.
She's such an old geezer.
She just walked in, hopped up, curled up in my lap, and I was like, well, let me move my notebook so I can See what we're supposed to be talking about.
You're
today.
a cat person when you just shift around and then pet the cat when they jump in your lap.
It's like, whatevs.
So what have you done this week?
Well, I wrote notes. I wrote notes so I would remember. So
you saw me scrambling to do that before the show. What did I do?
What did I don't remember. So I read this really good book, and it's really unusual. It's called Girl, Woman, Other, and it's by Bernardine Evaristo. I believe she's British because that's where the book is set. It's very interesting because it's got a lot of things. I'm just going to be blunt. It's got a lot of things I hate in it, like the format. It looks like it's almost written like a long form poem when you're looking at it on the page, and she doesn't use punctuation, or it may more correctly say they don't use punctuation. I'm not sure, so I'll go with they. And normally that drives me crazy.
Yeah,
I'm like, quote, it's free. Just fucking use it.
Use as many as you can.
So I opened this up. I was reading it for book club, and I opened it up, or book group. I opened it up and I look at it and I'm like, ugh. But by 2 pages in, I was into it. It's a very, very spare style. So you talk about it opens up and you're talking about this mother and daughter, and the mother's got a big play opening, and a lot of the stories come back and somehow touch on that play or opening night. So then you get the daughter's story, and then you spin off onto one of her friends' story, and then somebody else's mother's story, and they're all interrelated. They all connect somewhat tenuously sometimes, but they all have such different stories. And what was fascinating to me was how people see themselves versus how others see them, whether it's a relative or it's, your best friend, or that to me was just fascinating.
Yeah. And so it's just all this, it's just, relationships are complicated. So
yes. And it's all about women. And there's a lot of different sexualities, a lot of different, the one that I really found the most illuminating was the person who went through defining themselves as trans. And I believe there was another step past that, but I don't want to misrepresent it, so I won't try to go there. But following kind of in their head that process of figuring that out, I found very enlightening and very educational.
Okay, yeah.
Obviously, everybody's story is different. So this was one person's story, and I found it illuminating. So that was a really, it was a really good book. And it's not the easiest book in the world to read, but it is so worth it. And the style is great. Well, you got to get a couple of pages into it, and then you kind of are with the flow. If you do put it down, realize when you pick it back up, you're going to go like, oh, wait a minute, whose story is this?
Oh, good to know that.
And how do they connect? I kind of wanted a flow chart, but...
Like when we were reading George R.R. Martin. Like, who this?
Yeah.
New page, who this? Like...
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So what have you been reading?
I read The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, it was really good. I liked
that one.
Okay, so you read it.
Yes.
She's got agoraphobia. And I learned more about agoraphobia. It's like every other mental illness, I guess I'll say, where in movies it's never really depicted correctly. But, it's a traumatic event or a head injury, right? Can set it on. She had both. So anyway, she's confined to her home. And I did guess at one of the twists fairly early on, but it actually didn't take away from the story.
Oh, okay.
And so it was just like this. And in fact, as I got closer and closer and I could tell it was about to be revealed, I was kind of like, no, don't let it be so. Right? And then it was. And so it was like this, oh, damn, type moment. So well done. But yeah, it was just nice and twisty. She witnesses a murder in another house because she's trapped in her house. So she kind of lives through watching the neighbors and stuff like that. And it's just, boy, is she gaslighted through it.
And she's sort of an unreliable narrator.
Yes, because she's a heavy drinker and she's mixing a bunch of medications and she's taking more than she's supposed to and she's not taking them when she's supposed to. And it's just, yes, it's the type of character that often can frustrate me. And we've discussed that in the past, but it's put to good use in this. And I can't say I blame her. Because you do find out why this all happened?
Yes, she is a mess, but she's not just...
But she's also a competent, intelligent human being who's a psychiatrist? Or no, a psychologist?
Something.
As her, like a pediatric psychologist was what she did before all of this. So, yeah, it's...
And she is trying to move through her life. She's not just wallowing in it and trying to draw everybody into her pain. She's moving through it.
Yeah.
So, I liked it. And yeah, she is a hot mess, and I kind of like that about her.
Yeah.
I don't like reading about perfect people.
No, but I get tired of the, say, alcoholism, addiction, and the excuses that come with it.
Yes.
Because I could very easily be addicted to pain pills because I've had chronic pain since I was about 11. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm not. But I can't dismiss people's experience who are. There's the differences. There's reasons that it happens. So it gets wearisome for me to read about it.
I get that.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm so excited that I read like whole books because I had a week off from school.
Yay!
Between terms. I was like, yes! Guess what? I read books.
What did you watch? What movies did you see?
So you'd think that I would have watched a bunch of like new stuff, but instead I got in this kick because I had watched Irma la Douce weeks ago. I mentioned it on the podcast, and I asked for recommendations for more Billy Wilder movies. So I told my husband that I couldn't get The Apartment was one of the ones recommended, and then he was able to get it, and so we watched that, and it was really good. It has Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine also in that one. So then I watched Some Like It Hot, because that's another Billy Wilder with... I'm on a Jack Lemmon kick, apparently, is what it is. And then I watched The Out of Towners, which I'd never seen the original, with Jack Lemmon and some woman whose name I don't know.
Okay.
So I watched all kinds of good stuff. And Serial Mom again. I love that movie so much.
I haven't seen that in forever.
Oh, yeah. Because all of our movies had fallen off. Our server went down that we have all our movies, so Jeff's been slowly putting them back on from our DVDs that we don't have to go dig through the hundreds of DVDs that we have. And so he put that one on, and so he put it on for me. We watched it, and it was so good, and I love it so much. I think it now.
Kathleen
I'm trying
Turner,
to
right?
Yes, and here's the thing: is like trivia makes it even better because I think is it rheumatoid arthritis she has. I think it's why she gained the weight. It was. You know, and it like changed her voice and stuff like that.
Well, she's always had a husky voice.
Oh, she had an amazing voice.
Yes.
But it got deeper. So she was kind of in the thick of it when she made Serial Mom.
Ooh.
Now that I've read the trivia and read about her illness, and I think it was RA, but don't quote me on that. So anyway, when she made that movie, she was in so much pain, and it's funny because you find yourself looking for that, right? And there's no sign that she's in all this pain, and this is an active movie, and she's chasing people down and murdering them, and she's got to have this big smile because she's like Betty Homemaker, right? And Serial Mom, and it's great, and I love that Matthew Lillard, her son, he's a horror movie fan, and he's working at a video store, and it's just so pre-Scream. But it's this total, when you're watching it, it's obviously John Waters tongue-in-cheek responding to the video games and horror movies will make you violent because the teacher tells, this woman who's a serial killer behind the scenes, basically, that her son drew these horror pictures and he watches horror and she needs to find him mental help because he's obviously twisted, and she's just like, well, then she kills him. It's excellent. It's just a commentary, right? In true John Waters style. So,
yes,
I am a fan. What did you watch?
I watched, I can't remember if I mentioned this before. Did I say that I watched My Spy?
I don't know.
It's with Dave Bautista, the guy who's from Guardians of the Galaxy, the big guy, and some little kid. So he's a spy. Oh, who's the woman in the... I can't remember who the woman in the movie is with him. But anyway, he and his partner move into this building, and they're watching, and the little girl discovers them and figures out what they're doing. So becomes part of her life and is walking her to school and taking care of bullies and teaching her how to be a badass.
He's following the Rock line where he does the kid movies.
Yes. And it was kind of cute. But what really surprised me was, so then after that, so that was just kind of I want something amusing. Oh, I haven't seen this. I'll watch this. But then I watched, did you ever see the Hotel Artemis with Jodie
Yes.
Foster.
Yes. Oh, yeah, and Rob Lowe?
No.
Oh, I'm thinking of an old one.
Oh, Hotel Artemis is not. It has been made in the last few years because Jodie Foster. Oh, I meant to look up how old she is. She's got to be. I think she's a little bit older than I am, like a couple of years, not a lot. But she plays like a little old lady, and it was like, no.
Oh wait,
yes. Not Jodie Foster.
Okay,
she's
now I know
young and blonde and chic and.
Nope.
Oh my God, the physicality, the walk of this woman. She's like, we'd had a conversation, Joe and I, that we got on a kick a few years ago watching Leonardo DiCaprio films. And the way that he just disappears into his character. And I said, that's what Jodie Foster does. She disappears into the character. You don't look at it and see.
It's not like Drew Barrymore, who I adore, but who is always Drew Barrymore.
Yes. Or Diane Keaton.
Yeah, she's always Diane Keaton.
She's always exactly Diane Keaton. I'm like, okay. Anyway, so who else is in it? Sterling K. Brown is in it. Sophia Boutella.
Is this the action? This is an action movie?
Ish.
Like, is the Hotel Artemis?
The Hotel Artemis is this, like, concierge medical clinic. It's a little bit futuristic.
Okay, I have seen it.
Just a little bit futuristic. And if you subscribe to the Hotel Artemis and you have a medical emergency, you can get a room if they have one open.
Yes.
So, and Jeff Goldblum, who kind of just plays himself. I don't think he used to.
But that's the bestest. I know. Now he is, though. He is Jeff Goldblum, and then so he has to play Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. You know?
Right.
So, yeah, he used to act, and now he's just Jeff Goldblum.
Now he doesn't have to anymore. But that was really an interesting movie. I thought. Yeah. There was an aspect of it. Well, it's been out for a while, so, you know, we are not required to give spoiler alerts.
No.
The police officer that comes in, at the end of the movie, I thought, how would the movie have been different if they never took the police officer in? And I'm like, I don't think it would have been.
Okay.
I
don't remember it well enough to say what I think about that, because I saw it right after it came out.
And I wanted to. I just, you know how it is, you forget.
So, speaking of movies that aren't out yet, which we weren't. Have you seen the preview for the new Suicide Squad that's coming out?
Yes.
Oh my God. So, Nathan Fillion's in it.
Yes.
Margot Robbie is the only one really reprising a role.
Right.
As Harley Quinn, but I love her in that role. So, Idris Elba's in it.
Yes. John Cena?
Yes, I never know if it's Senna or Cena because I did not watch wrestling.
I did.
And Sylvester Stallone is the Shark's voice.
I heard.
Oh, it looks really good. Like,
it does.
I'm totally going to give it a chance. And it's James Gunn.
Yeah,
is the director.
Yes.
So it's not the same person who did the first Suicide Squad. Although nothing's going to beat the original Suicide Squad's soundtrack. That's the best soundtrack ever.
Yeah, okay.
It's a really good soundtrack. But, yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Have you seen the ads for Miskatonic U?
No.
It's this university set in the fictional town.
Right, because there's a magazine dedicated to Miskatonic.
Yeah, with all the H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu stuff. And I was like, I'm going to watch that so I can tell Shannon about it. Oh, it's not out yet. So I guess I had seen something. I guess I won't. I'll just have to wait. So, did you watch... Since we're talking about watching stuff, did you watch the Britcom called Miranda with Miranda Hart?
No, I've heard of it.
Okay, it's really, really funny. I adored it. Sharon, our friend, mutual friend Sharon, told me to watch it. She just said, "Don't question it. Just watch it.
Don't question it. Don't think. Just watch.
Don't speak." Well, it turns out it's flippin' hilarious. So there's a new TV show on American TV. Call Me Kat.
Yes, I watched it.
With Mayim Bialik.
Yeah.
Which I believe, I haven't done the research, but I thought I saw a blip on, it's referenced BBC. Oh. And I think it's based on the Miranda show. I think that's where they got the idea because of that whole talking to the audience thing. And at the end when they all come out and wave.
I wonder if that's more of a Brit thing because Fleabag is like that as well.
Oh, is it? I
where
still haven't watched that.
Randomly talks to the camera and it's hysterical.
But
you still haven't watched that?
I still haven't watched it. I'm sorry.
Gosh.
I'm not writing it down.
We keep like checking to see if there's a new season, and there's not. It's so sad.
Oh, and I watched the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Shall we?
It was okay.
Can you read from my tongue? I mean, I said we weren't going to give it a chance, and Jeff was like, well, we might as well like watch it. And then we were both like, eh.
I have to admit, I mean, it wasn't repulsive, but it didn't immediately draw me in.
No. I mean, I realized it's been a few weeks since we watched it, and I hadn't even thought about it. I know at one point, I think my husband was like, so are we just supposed to forgive everything Bucky did? Is that what we're doing now? Are we supposed to feel sorry for him? Like, say, watch it. Yes.
So, yeah, and I'm like, if somebody loves it, more power to you. I don't hate it. I just, it is not written for me.
No, but you didn't like The Mandalorian.
I did not. I like this better
I
than
did.
The Mandalorian.
I like The Mandalorian better because there's a baby Yoda and he's so cute. And I know it's not Yoda, blah, 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 blah. Don't nerd-splain it to me. I'm aware of it, and I'm still calling him Baby Yoda.
Lucy and I sat down and watched the first episode, and then we were like, well, let's try another one. And then at the end of the second episode, we're like, they could torture us with this. It just was not for me or for Lucy. So I got a couple episodes in, and no, I don't need any more.
Oh, that's okay.
Have you watched anything
You're allowed
else?
to not like it.
I am.
I watched Deadly Women, which is...
What is that?
It's like a Hulu... Well, it's an investigation discovery ID show that is currently on Hulu, and it's about women who kill. So it's not just like serial killers or anything like that, but it's really... I enjoy it. There's some cray-cray women out there. Let me tell you. I'm going to be talking about one of those cray-cray women today, actually. And I think she was on that show.
Well, that's an excellent lead-in then.
Right? It was kind of perfect.
Oh my God. It's like you
Oh
planned it that way.
I will say something about Deadly Women.
Okay.
And that, so they had an episode and it was about a trans woman who killed. And I just want to say that it's sad that this type of thing stands out to me enough that I'm like, yay, good job. But everybody interviewed, all the experts, everybody properly gendered her throughout.
Wow, that's terrific. That's
really
amazing.
Was. Yeah. I mean, we're talking journalists and we're talking police and and everybody correctly gendered her throughout. And I mean, they put her on a show that was Deadly Women. So that right there meant that they were like, fully acknowledging who she was. So
nice.
That made me happy. It was one of the more recent episodes I watched. So yeah.
All right then.
Since I let in, shall I start?
Do it. Go for it.
All right. So I am talking about La Mataviejitas, which is the old lady killer, which that's kind of rude, but that's what they called this person. Sources, serialkillerfacts.com. Look at that. I found another one.
What was that again?
Serialkillerfacts.com.
I'm writing that one down.
Murderpedia and Wikipedia.
Oh,
yeah. So those are the go-tos. But I found this one else, and it actually had information that other ones didn't have. So, bully for that. All right. In 2002, an elderly woman in Mexico City named Maria de la Luz Gonzalez Anaya, that is quite a name, was murdered. She was strangled to death. By 2005, there have been several murders of elderly women. Desperate police finally admit they have a serial killer. Finally, 3 years later, they have a serial killer of elderly women, one the press had dubbed La Mataviejitas. The murders were always committed by bludgeoning or strangulation, often using items from the victim's home, including tights and phone cables. The victims were always 60 years or older.
Ooh.
Yes. And they were often, sadly, beaten as well. So there was a lot of anger involved with these
Someone's
killings.
got grandma issues.
Somebody has, yes. Witnesses reported a large woman or a man in conservative women's clothing. The strength of the attacks, which included some abuse, like I said, indicated a strong male killer. So the police were like, the strength that had to be used in what happened here, this is clearly a man. They weren't even considering a female angle. Police felt that the killer was endearing himself to the victims for killing them, then robbing them. Aside from money, stolen personal items such as crosses and other religious symbols were also often taken. leading police to believe the killer was keeping trophies. Police started detaining and questioning those they described as transvestites, specifically tracking down transsexual prostitutes. Now, my disclaimer here is all the newspapers, all the stuff about it uses the term transvestite throughout the story.
Okay.
So this is not my word. I don't know. When I did the cult leader down in Mexico, it was also they always use the term transvestite. I don't know if that's more common in Mexico. I don't know if that's just clueless. I don't know. So okay. I am ignorant on why that is. So I put that in there because they described that's what they were hunting down. On November 21st, 2005, the following article came out in The Guardian, written by Joe Tuckman. And it's a short article, so I'll read it. Old lady killer set to strike again. Police in Mexico City have warned that a serial killer believed to have strangled at least 24 old women in the capital since 2003 is likely to strike again soon. Police say the murderer, dubbed Mataviejitas, little old lady killer, is probably a man dressed as a woman who cons his way into homes by pretending to be a social worker or a nurse. The latest victim was Maria de Los Angeles Repair, 92.
Aww.
I know. Like, what kind of a fight was there? Strangled in her bedroom on October 18th. With the killings getting closer together over the past year, there's concern that another murder is overdue. Specific fears about dates stem from the killer's activity on November 17th, 2003, and on November 19th last year, 2004. This is not mere speculation, the head of inquiry, Renato Salas, told a press conference this week. Mr. Salas urged women over 60 living alone to avoid talking to strangers. He urged the public to watch out for elderly relatives or neighbors accompanied by unfamiliar people. He denied a report that police had hired old women to loiter in shopping malls and parks to trap the killer. The police have been heavily criticized for dismissing evidence of serial murders as media sensationalism until this summer, and then for a ham-fisted swoop on transvestite prostitutes last month. So the thing is, that was a Guardian article, and they used the term transvestite. So I don't know it's early 2000s, so I guess that...
I don't know.
I mean, they also keep saying old women instead of, elderly women. Like, that strikes me through... I mean, the name of the killer is the old lady killer, but it's like, I don't know. It felt like a lot of... tone deafness in these. But that was the Guardian. All right. A plastic bust was made of the man attacking these women, and detectives surmised that, as the article said, the killer was posing as a doctor, nurse, or social worker in order to get into the victims' homes.
Not a social worker. They are above reproach.
I won't comment on that. Hello. Hello, thing one. Shout out. Imagine everyone's surprise when the serial killer they'd been tracking for years was arrested January 25th, 2006 and turned out to be a 50-year-old woman.
Of course. I knew. You know, from the way you were saying it, the police said it had to be a man. I'm like, okay, that means it's a woman.
I mean, I also did some really distinct foreshadowing before I started.
Yes.
Her name... I'm surprised they didn't say she was an old woman at 50, right? The way they're like, old women.
Like 60 isn't old.
Anyway, her name is Juana Barraza. Oh. Juana Barraza was born December 27th, 1958 in Hidalgo, Mexico, to an abusive, alcoholic mother and a police commander father. Ooh. Now, they had met when the mother was a 13-year-old prostitute, I guess, and gotten married. Anyway, one day her father came home from work and her sister was there alone. I could not find what age her sister was. I think it was an older sister, alone, and Juana and her mother had disappeared. Her mother had actually hooked up with another man. He became the stepfather, so I assume that they got married. Though he was good to her. He was actually good to her. Her mother continued abusing her, and when Juana was 12 years old, her mother sold her to a man for 3 beers. Yep. That man sexually abused her for years, eventually impregnating her twice. She would ultimately have 4 children with 3 different men. First 2 with, So 2 of those children by her original rapist, who she was able to leave around the age of 17. That's when she was able to get away from him. She lived with him for 5 years and had 2 children at 17. She had never received any sort of education.
Oh.
Yeah. So she couldn't read. She couldn't write. She She had several marriages, but ended up alone, single mother. She supported herself and her kids by doing domestic work, factory work, street vending, and ultimately theft. Because she just wasn't making enough. She started robbing elderly women with a partner, Araceli Martinez, in 1996, the year I got married. About a year after beginning, and graduated high school. About a year after beginning a solo career of crime by breaking into houses for money and jewelry. So her oldest son was killed in a mugging, but her other younger son and 2 daughters were doing well when she was caught. Her oldest daughter had married and moved out, and her youngest 2 were 11 and 13 at the time of her arrest. They ended up moving in with the big sister once she got arrested. Interestingly, so here's the fun spin on this story. Juana loved lucha libre, the Mexican costumed wrestling.
Oh, okay.
She wrestled under the name La Dama del Silencio, the silent woman. And she said the reason for that was, so she was, quote, 2 different quotes, right? One of them, she just said, because, I tended to be shy. And her neighbors all said she was very shy, very polite. She was actually a good mom, despite everything, despite not having a
good
a mother
model.
Figure,
right.
a role model. So her kids were well adjusted. They were good kids.
Wow, that's fortunate.
Yeah. But, and then the other quote was something along the lines, because I keep to myself and I just, don't put my nose in other people's business. So, of the 2 roles taken on by lucha libre wrestlers, the good guys called technicos and the bad guys called rudos. And rudos can break all the rules, but the technicos follow the rules. She was quoted as saying, "I'm rudo to the core," right? She retired from the circuit at 43 years old. So this is before she was caught, obviously 7 years, which was in 2000, but continued organizing events and promoting other fighters and stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like she found her niche.
This was her passion, but she didn't make any money doing it.
Oh.
Like, it's never mentioned as a source of income.
Because that's too bad, because that seems like a natural...
Yeah. Like something she could have done that she loved. And
yeah, would have brought some money in.
So the timing here, 2000... she's stopped, she stopped getting to fight. And the first for sure murder is 2002 or 2003 that they can associate with her. Oh. Did she stop being able to take out her aggressions in the ring? And then she started murdering? Okay. I don't know. She was caught while fleeing the home of a murder victim, Ana Maria de los Reyes Alfaro, an 82-year-old woman who had been strangled with a stethoscope that had been kept there because she had like a home caregiver that would stop by. They didn't live there or anything. Reports differed on whether it was a neighbor or Alfaro's caretaker arriving to visit her, but a witness saw Juana fleeing the home just before they went in, and they found Alfaro's body.
Okay.
So it was a guy, and he actually then started chasing Juana, but I think she was bigger than him. She was a big, strong woman.
Yeah.
And she was heading towards the subway or whatever the equivalent was there. And so he happened to pass 2 cops that were out on foot patrol. And so he was able to get them. They nab her before she gets to the station. Ooh. And they arrest her. That's how she was caught. On her person, she had a fake ID showing her as, are you ready? Are you ready for it?
I am.
A social worker. As well as pension forms. The wheel of justice turns slowly in Mexico and involves a decision by a judge. There's no jury. There's nothing like that. It's a quiet, closed room affair. March 31st, 2008, she was found guilty of 11 counts of murder and 5 counts of aggravated burglary and sentenced to 759 years to be served concurrently. Here's the thing that's funny is I didn't write it down, but it's like 759 years and 17 days. So I don't know if that's just like, that can't even just be time served because she would have been in jail for several years before this. So I was like, so what's okay, go ahead and add that
I like
on
that.
there.
In 17 days.
I was also curious how she could be convicted of every murder, but there was only aggravated burglary on 5 of them. Like, did she not? So I don't know. I didn't understand that and why that wasn't also like 11 counts of aggravated burglary. The maximum sentence under Mexican law is 60 years, technically. So, I mean, you can run all these concurrently, but you can't stay in there more than 60 years or something. So, she's in prison, though, until she dies. She was 50 when she was busted. She like 110.
Yeah.
Well, over that, because it was years after she was busted. But anyway, when asked why she committed her crime, she said she was angry at the way her mother had treated her, and she took it out on these women. I couldn't find, so then was her mother dead? Yeah. I assume so, because she couldn't take it out on her mom. So she went and took it out on these women. And it was interesting to me that then she targeted elderly women and not, say, middle-aged women. And anyway, her mom was young when she had her, it sounds like. Again, details hard to find. But if she was 13 when they got married and then they had the 2 kids, I highly doubt they waited until she was 20 to have 2 kids, you know?
Right.
So, anyway, just why you'd think she's going after 20-somethings. I mean, if they reminded of her mom, she was 12 when she wasn't with her mom anymore.
Right, but she must have been...
Like, this is how old my mom would be now.
Yeah.
Because it was 10 years older than her and up, right?
Or maybe it was a grandmother thing. Maybe it was this...
Yeah.
You can't be a grandmother to my children. I don't know. That's really stretching.
Right?
Yeah. And even if you ask people why they did the crimes they did.
Oh, yeah. They're going to...
Some of them are never going to give you a straight answer.
Not only that, some of them can't. I mean, a lot of it's not like everybody sits around and self-analyzes. I do. I could tell you all kinds of things about me because I do it all the time. But I still have to really think about that shit. Woe be to the cop that asked me why I did something. Is what I just to summarize that.
It's like you're going to need another notebook.
TLDR. Woe to you. Okay. In addition to pretending to be a social worker, she would also ask for, say, she'd knock on the door and say, I'm looking for work as a laundress. Can I come in and do your laundry? Can I come clean your house? Can I get a glass of water? I mean, she just, I assume that she told them, this is how I got in here. This is how I got in here for them to know this. She'd stalk the victims, often noticing them in public, mostly at the market. They'd go to the market. She'd offer to bring in their groceries for them or help them get their groceries home. And then, yes.
That's a vulnerability.
Yep. It takes me back to the article, that Guardian article, and they said they've warned elderly women not to talk. Well, they didn't say elderly, did they? Old women not to talk to strangers. And I was like, how isolating.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the whole... When there's a serial rapist on the loose, right? Then it's, oh, women, don't leave your house. Well, okay, we'll just stay here because let's put the onus practical on us, which I get. Of course, officers are going to have to put out there, here's how you can stay safe. They can't protect everybody. I get that. But at the same time, when you're the recipient of that and you're like, oh, I should just stop my world should stop now.
Yes.
This is why I go for late night walks. I'm like... I'm sorry, society doesn't get to take that away from me. It's a pleasure that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I go at different times. And good luck to you if you want to take me out when I'm on a late night walk. So there's often some aggression of getting out on that walk, and I'm also armed. Anyway, when her sentence was read, Juana was quoted as saying, "May God forgive you and not forget me."
Wow.
She only admitted to the final murder for which she was caught, but fingerprints were actually what convicted her of the other 11, and it's thought she committed up to 48 murders total, dating back to the 90s.
Wow.
Yes. So they think that she's done far more, but she has not admitted to it. I think ultimately she admitted to like 2 more of them. I don't know why. Wow. But she has never admitted to even all the 11 she's been convicted for that her fingerprints were all over. And for those who like crime scene photos, you can view the crime scene photos online. I will not be posting them because I don't feel that's what we do here.
Thank you.
I did look at them and it's sad. I mean, it's these poor little old ladies, and one of them, she's on her bed. She was strangled on her bed, and her dog is still sitting there next to her when the police were photographing it. And that one just killed me. I was like, oh, puppy.
Oh, that is sad.
It was like, I guess they were just going to let that poor doggo sit there. I mean, it was just a little dog. And it was like, I'll guard you. I didn't save you, but I'll guard you. But, yep, that is the story of La Mataviejitas.
Wow.
The old lady killer.
Wow, I don't have anything quite that dramatic.
Well, that's good, because that's why I went first.
So I'm going to talk about, because our longtime listeners might remember that Thing 2, by the time this comes out, Thing 2 will not only have graduated from college, may I just say, with honors. Yeah, maybe I'll send we're going to send a copy of her diploma to her high school guidance counselor.
Yeah.
Because, why not? But she will have moved out of Arkansas.
You might need to explain why you're going to do that.
So when Nikki was in high school, thing too. Her guidance, Nikki said, you have to go meet with a guidance counselor and talk about what you want to do with your whole entire life. Because every 17-year-old knows exactly what they want to do with their whole entire life. So Nikki said, I want to go to college. And the counselor was kind of like, okay, what college do you want to go to? Nikki's like, well, I'm looking here, I'm looking here, I'm looking here. And the counselor was like, oh, honey, maybe you shouldn't go to a 4-year college. Maybe you should go to go to a community college first, and then you can transfer. Why don't you try that first? Well, if you want Nikki to do something, tell her she can't. Yeah. So she has been sending that guidance counselor her rather excellent grades at the end of every semester.
Has she gotten a response?
No, she just forwards them. She doesn't even send a note. She just forwards her grades.
I love it so much.
I don't know where she gets it. So anyway, I thought it would be fun to do some Arkansas cryptids.
That's right. It can be like a goodbye to Arkansas.
Yeah, there's
not that you don't still have family there.
That's true. So we won't have the quite as regular as clockwork trips. So my sources were, I love this site, onlyinyourstate.com.
Yes. There's good stuff on there.
You could get some really good stuff. Now, it doesn't have all the finer details, but, it's still got, it can send you in the right direction.
It's a good jumping off point.
It is very good. Of course, Wikipedia, the Folk Monster website, the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, the Cryptozoologicon.
Ooh.
Right? And Arkansas.com.
Okay.
So the first one, I've got 3 that I'm going to talk about. And they may or may not be related. So the first one, and some of them are just pure urban legend, and some are like, what the hell happened here? So the Devil's Hole Cave is in a tiny town called Self, just north of Harrison, which is north central Arkansas near the Missouri border. In fact, it's just like 30 miles south of Branson, Missouri. This is not to be confused with the Devil's Hole geothermal pool in a limestone cavern in the Amargosa Desert in Nevada.
Okay. Nor
is it to be confused with the Devil's Hole State Park just north of Niagara Falls in New York.
There's also a devil something or other in Oregon on the coast.
The devil has a lot of holes.
Seems apt.
I'm waiting for all day to say that. You're like, give me a prompt.
Give me a prompt I can use.
Like a fine Swiss cheese. The devil is full of holes. Anyway, the legend has
that's a motto to live by.
The legend has it that the landowner discovered this cave and he decides he wants to explore it, as one does. So he climbs down about 200 feet.
See, I had an inappropriate response to that, and I actually held myself back, and then I didn't. Look at me.
Very good. Wow, restraint.
Restraint! I just want you all to acknowledge that. Thank you. Have a lovely day.
So he goes down about 200 feet, and he reaches a ledge that drops into a very narrow opening that he would have had to crawl into. For some reason, he decides he doesn't want to crawl headfirst into a dark hole that he can't see what's ahead of him.
Well, what kind of a caver is he?
I don't know, but he can hear hissing.
Oh, fuck that.
And he likened it to what a very large lizard would sound like. I don't know what a hissing lizard would sound like. When I hear the word hiss, I think snake.
Right, that's what I thought. It was like a ball of snakes, since they form a ball in a cave.
Oh my god, I hadn't even thought of a ball of snakes. That's even...
You're welcome.
Anyway, hissing. So, he beats his hasty retreat.
Beats feet
out of there. Gets some men from Self. I just love the fact that the town is called Self.
Where are you from? Self? Yeah. But
so they come back, and they all go down to this ledge, and they get a flat iron tied to a rope and drop it down in. So apparently they hear more hissing, something yanks on the rope.
Uh-huh.
It's like an iron, the old-fashioned
iron. Oh, yeah,
iron.
okay.
So they pull it back up, and the flat iron is bent, and it's covered with what looks like teeth and claw marks. And they tried a couple of more times, dropping a stone, a big stone at the end of the rope. And it keeps being, the rope is yanked on, and they do this a couple of times until the rope is bitten off.
Then they send a dude down tied to the rope.
Strangely, no one wanted to be the person to go in. I'm like, did they not have a lantern? Could they not have pitched a lantern in there? I wasn't there. I don't know. But nobody wanted to explore the cavern in person, apparently, ever. I could find nothing more on this.
Oh.
It's just like, boop. And
that's because everybody goes in here hissing and goes, nah.
So, and it's like, we aren't exactly sure when this happened. But yeah, you can still, the cave is still there. So if you want to hear the hissing and...
No.
I don't.
I'm good.
So that was kind of okay. It was the wind blowing, whatever.
If I want hissy caves, I could probably just hike into Ute Valley and
probably
figure out where the rattlesnakes have been pulling up.
Hissy caves, hissy fish. So, in the small town of Folk, I gotta tell you, I reached out to my sister-in-law for some pronunciation help here. Because I was like, hey, how do you pronounce this?
Folks, what's it spelled like?
Fouke.
Oh.
So I probably would have said
Folk that.
Okay, so this is in western Arkansas near the Texas border. It became infamous because on May 2nd in 1971, Bobby Ford claimed that his family was attacked by a large ape-like creature similar to Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You know where this is going.
Skunky.
The police investigation could only find strange tracks and claw marks on the man's porch. So the legend of the Folk monster, Arkansas's residential Bigfoot, caught the public's attention. It really just caught on in a huge way. Elizabeth Ford had been sleeping on the couch and something reached through the screen. Ew. And how fucking horrifying is that?
Yeah.
So she screams, wakes up her husband and his brother Don. So they chase it off, claiming they fired at it and hit it. And the police were able to find scratch marks on the door, on the porch, damage to the screen, and damage to the house's siding. Mm-hmm. But they never found a creature. So that was May 2nd. May 23rd, 3 people, D.C. Woods Jr., Wilma Woods, and Mrs. R.H. Sedgas, report seeing the creature crossing U.S. Highway 71. So over the next several months, tourists and locals keep reporting seeing it. It's in the woods, it's crossing the road. They found some footprints, which were all, interestingly, 3-toed. Ooh. So that kind of rules out an ape-like creature.
It's a giant sloth.
That was what I thought. But you know what else has 3 toes on each foot?
What?
Rhinos. I know, it can't be a rhinoceros. But...
rhino.
I have to stop and look. A sloth, a rhino, a giant rhino sloth.
Yeah.
There you go, Sci-Fi Channel. There's your next idea.
Rhino sloth. Rhinoth.
Yeah, and so the local game warden, Carl Gallion, couldn't identify the prints. One set of prints were 17 inches long and 7 inches wide. And they were all universally 3-toed. So... reports between 1971 and 1974 put it about 7 feet tall, covered with dark hair, weighed about 250 to 300. It was said to run swiftly on 2 feet, kind of in a loping movement, moving its arms, reminiscent of the way a monkey moves. And it smelled like a cross between a skunk and a wet dog.
Skunk ape.
Yeah, with glowing red eyes.
But Sasquatch has 5 toes.
Yeah, this is true. And as far as I know, Sasquatch does not have glowing red eyes.
Maybe Sasquatch lost the same 2 toes on both feet.
That could be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that would look a bit different than an actual 3-toed. But let's just pretend that's not true.
Okay. So they did get dogs to track it, but for some reason, despite the fact that it smelled like skunk and wet dog, the dogs could not track it. I'm just telling you.
I think they just refused. They were like, you know what? This thing is scary as fuck. We don't know what it is. We would like some dog chow.
Or there was nothing to smell. But let's go with that. They were.
That's less fun.
The dogs were too smart.
That's right.
The dogs
they usually are smarter than the people.
Yes, they took one sniff and went, "Oh hell no!
Why in the hell would I track this?
No, I don't want to know what that is." Anyway, so many hunters took an interest. So people are. So you've got the locals trying to hunt this thing. You've got tourists coming to town just to try to hunt this thing. The sheriff had to enact a temporary no guns policy for public safety. Oh, yeah. And that year, which one? Oh, God. That was, I think it was in 74. 71, between 71 and 74, 3 people were fined for filing a fraudulent monster report.
Fraudulent monster
report. Can you just
report?
see that in your police record? Filing a fraudulent monster.
Do you have a record? Yes. What's it for?
Filing a fraudulent monster report. So, what happened in 1972? This is the one I'm like, you know where this is going.
You tell me.
The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Yay!
Was based on the folk monster. And that movie, incidentally, was
That's right, I've watched that.
What is the 11th highest grossing film of 1972.
Joe Bob did it.
And not only that, I read a little bit about the movie.
It's the highest grossing.
11th. 11th.
Oh, 11th. Okay,
highest
like,
grossing.
what?
But a lot of people, because it had that documentary format.
It was Blair Witch before Blair Witch.
Exactly. And apparently the makers of the Blair Witch Project, and I can't remember the other movie, like said, we were hoping to do the realism style, you know.
Yeah, except for nobody wanted to watch snot dripping out of some. Oh, I'm sorry. A lot of people like that movie.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I've never seen it. The Blair Witch Project. I don't. Anyway. So, if you go back, so this was in the early 70s. If you go back in time, alleged sightings took place in this same area. It was reported in 1851 in the Memphis Inquirer. And now Memphis is almost 300 miles away, and it's reported. In 1856, it was reported in the Caddo Gazette, which is located in Shreveport, Louisiana, which is about 56 miles away. In the 70s, when this was all going on, local residents were claiming that sightings went back at least as far as 1964, while others were claiming this creature had been spotted around Jonesville, 7 miles away, as far back as 1946. In 1955, a 14-year-old boy may have seen it, but the authorities think he may have just seen a brown bear and not been able to tell the difference. In March of 1978, tracks were found near Russellville. In June of 78, it was spotted near Crosset. And I apologize, I didn't ask for pronunciation of everything. So there have been occasional sporadic sightings. In 1991, it was seen jumping from a bridge. There were about 40 sightings as recently as 1997. And in 1998, it was seen in a dry creek bed south of Folk.
Cool.
There was a podcast quoted. It's the Skeptoid podcast. And I'm like, I got to look that up.
Yeah.
Anything called the Skeptoid, I got to check this out. Their conclusion was, I'm going to read you the quote. So in total, every last shred of evidence that the folk monster exists at all is anecdotal. Not a single piece is testable. The folk monster fits very poorly with the model of a living animal, but fits very well with a local legend.
Yeah.
So, what I love, the town has an annual festival, which in 2013 they changed from the Boggy Creek Festival to the Folk Monster Festival.
That's great. That's a nice little twist on the name there.
Yes, although I still think it should be called the Boggy Creek Festival.
Well, yeah, because that's more famous.
Yeah, it is more famous. And proceeds benefit the local school district. But best of all, there is the Folk Monster Mart, which is convenience store, souvenir shop, and mini museum. I'm like, I have to put that.
Is that the one that has didn't you talk about a rest stop or something that had a statue of like a Sasquatch type creature?
Oh no, that's one thing too drives by.
Oh, okay. But it's not at all related to this.
It's not this one, no. Oh, but the latest sightings from the Folk Monster website, there were 2 sightings in 2019. Ooh. I'm assuming last year everybody stayed home and nobody saw it, but
that's right.
We were all...
Except they should have been in the woods. Everybody was out there hiking, so I couldn't hike.
Yes.
I was like, wait, there's too many people.
Now we're going to talk about, in the north central Arkansas town of Blanco, is something called the Gowrow.
The Gowrow.
The Gowrow. It's Gowrow. And there was some debate on whether it was pronounced Gowrow or Gorow. But I think Gowrow. You'll see why in a minute. This 20-foot-long monster with tusks and claws gets its name from the sound it made screaming in the woods. And I just think Gowrow sounds more like something that would be screamed than Gorow.
Sounds like a cat that swallowed a bee.
It does.
Because I had a cat make that sound once because she swallowed Yellow Jacket.
Oh, that's awful.
That's what she said.
That is the noise Pogo makes when he's unhappy with the world and is about to throw up a The hairball.
Ugh.
So it could be called the hairball instead of the
let's
Gow
just do that.
So, on January 31st, 1897, the Arkansas Gazette published an article by Elbert Smithy about an encounter with the creature, including an illustration that was purportedly based on a photograph. Now, I will link to this article so you can see this, because you look at this and go, really? I mean, yeah. So you can still link to this article and read it. So as the story goes, a little rock... Now, no, I'm just going to read this description and then I'll come back to it. As the story goes, a little rock man, William Miller, was traveling through the Ozark forest when he arrived in the tiny town of Blanco. Livestock and pets had been turning up dead, so Miller formed a posse with the local men to hunt down whatever was responsible. So, my question is, where would storytelling in general be without good-hearted strangers willing to risk their own lives to help the local villagers who are apparently too stupid to take care of themselves without the help of a kind stranger? I mean, seriously, substitute the word dragon and you've got fairy tales here.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I've never seen this story structure before. Yeah. And the thing kind of looks like a dragon. Actually, it's listed on a dragon website.
Oh.
There's a website that talks about, and I don't think I marked it, because I didn't quote from it, I just looked at it. But it has types of dragons and where they live and what they look like.
Cool.
And the Gowrow is listed.
Cool.
So, while they're searching for the creature, they hear the eerie screaming in the woods. That's where the name comes from. So they find its lair, a cave filled with animal skeletons and some human remains. I wanted much more detail than some human remains.
Who was missing? What were they? Were they just bones?
Yeah. Was it a skull? Was it a jacket? Was it somebody's boots? I wanted to know what they found. So they're waiting to ambush the creature, and they hear it emerge from a nearby lake. And it apparently was so big, it caused the ground to tremble as it made its way home.
Yikes.
Right? So it was a creature 20 feet long with tusks, large webbed feet that ended in claws, front and back. Webbed feet, front and back. A row of horns, smaller horns, running down its back, and a tail that ended in a blade-like point. During the fight, it ripped several trees from the ground and tore the leg off of one of the posse members, who also died from a result of his wound. I can imagine having your leg torn off would be pretty traumatic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what? Usually the cryptids don't kill anything, so this one's primo.
So it finally succumbed in a hail of bullets.
Oh. So where is the carcass?
Miller claimed he sent the body of the creature to the Smithsonian, but somehow it never arrived.
Huh.
And there is a theory floating around that the Gowrow is what's lurking in that cave itself. See, it comes around. I was like, oh, that's there. Although why it wasn't Gowrowing instead of hissing,
right?
I don't know, but
maybe it didn't want to be recognized.
That could be disguising its voice. So for a while, this one kills me. This, I was like, there's always one. So there was at least one man, there may have been more than one, but there was at least one man who made a living out of displaying the monster. So what he would do was, he would set up the show, like a carnival site. He would set up a tent, and he had this big, horrible picture of the Gowrow out front, and it's $25 or 25 cents. This was in the late 1800s. It's 25 cents admission to see it. So he gets the crowd settled up front, tells them all about the Gowrow, says, okay, hold on. And he goes around the tent. Well, there's the big pictures sitting there. The audience would hear shouting and gunshots and growling, and the back of the tent would collapse. And the man would stagger out front, and his clothes are all ripped and shredded, shouting something to the effect of, "Run for your lives, the Gowrow has escaped." And without fail, people just picked up and fucking booked it out of there. Nobody saw the Gowrow, and nobody stopped and asked for their money back.
That's great.
Right?
That's genius.
I know. So, While most people assume the Gaurau is just a tall tale, there may have been a tiny basis in fact. I don't believe anything. I'm the big skeptic. But since it emerged from a river, it could have been an alligator.
Yeah.
So I went, are there alligators in Arkansas?
So just an alligator walking around going, Gaurau.
Apparently. It's got a hairball.
Yeah.
But yes, they are native to the state, although they were hunted almost to extinction in this century because of alligator hide for belts and purses and shoes. And they're mostly found in the lower third of the state. So an adult male can be 15 feet long and 500 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
and they have like the ridges, right?
Yeah,
on
right.
the back.
That makes sense. And you know how the tail grows in the telling.
Yeah.
The other thought, because it had tusks and horns, is that it could have been a razorback hog, which are renowned both for their ugliness and their bad tempers.
Yeah.
And the direct quote, boars have long, bristly hair, high shoulders, a sloping rump, long skinny legs, and small hips. The massive wedge-shaped head with short, hairy, erect ears end in a pointed snout. It's just an ugly fucking animal.
Maybe it was a razorback alligator.
That's right. That's what actually.
Crossbreeding.
So a mature male razorback can be 5 feet long and weigh 300 pounds. And they do have long tusks. They have upper and lower tusks. And as they rub together, they sharpen.
Ah.
Right? How fucking scary is that?
That's some good biological build there.
Its natural body armor of fat, gristle, and tendons can be more than an inch thick.
Okay, so wasn't there a big political drama involving guns, and they were like, I've got to have my guns for the hogs.
I need the automatic weapons to fight off the feral.
That's why, because gristle and the alligator skin for the crossbreeds there.
So what I liked was the Encyclopedia of Arkansas says wild boars are intelligent, equipped with keen senses, swift, wary, easily agitated, and aggressive when cornered. And I'm like, dude, that's me. Except maybe for the keen senses. They can move 35 miles per hour and are constantly on the move, even when feeding.
You know, there's a horror movie called Hogzilla that Joe Bob Briggs is in.
Really?
Yeah. So
it's got to be a razorback.
It's probably, I don't remember, but so I've talked about Joe Bob Briggs' last drive-in on here, and he's a horror movie host. Although he did other shows before, because like he did Tootsie and he did all these other movies back in the day.
He used to do, it was a drive-in. It used to be he reviewed drive-in movies.
Yeah, because sometimes people are like, he'll have one like the Love Witch, and people are like, he's going soft, which, shut up.
That's how I first saw him on TV. He was doing the drive-in movies.
Okay.
Although they were frequently, it would be like, I can't remember the name of the style of movie, like the kung fu, the really bad kung fu movies and stuff like that.
But he was in this one and he hates it. And so they surprised him with Darcy as his male girl, but also kind of his co-host now. Mm-hmm. And the cast surprised him. They wouldn't tell him. He was mad. Oh, he was mad at them. I'm not talking to you. And then he had to host it, right? Like, he still had to host it. He was like... But anyway, it's called Hogzilla. And so every little once in a while to rag him now on the show, they're like, Hogzilla, Hogzilla, Hogzilla. And he's like, it's not even funny. Just stop. That just made me think of that. Because you're talking about the hog. Hogzilla, Hogzilla,
Hogzilla. So those are that's my my fond farewell to my regular trips to Arkansas.
Adieu, adieu to you and you and you.
Auf Wiedersehen. I don't know the words. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's sing. The two of us. That's what our listeners want is for us to sing. My children are just, and my husband, everybody who knows, they're just shaking their heads going, what the fuck is wrong with them? But they know us, so they kind of know what's wrong with us.
Right, they know what's wrong with us. They're well informed. All right, well, that's it.
So, if people want to reach us, tell us your stories. Tell us about your amazing monsters or your family mysteries. We want to hear about them.
Or your razorback hog hunting stories.
Yes.
Or the crossbreed animal stories.
If we've ever encountered an alligator.
Have you ever wanted to kill an old woman? I guess. I don't know what to do a callback on for my story. Tell me about your mother issues. No, wait.
Please do not.
No, don't share those with us. We don't need daddy issues. Although it is funny because, usually it's women have the daddy issues, right? In stories, it's always, she had daddy issues, so she dated a 50-year-old or whatever. Yeah. And then, but I'm like, you know what? Like, it's usually the mom at least the two females whose heads butt in a household, given my head butted pretty solidly with my dad too, but probably more so. But yeah, she had mommy issues. They rarely say that. It's usually the boys.
Yep.
In, fiction.
Like Ma Barker.
Yeah.
Who we've talked about.
Oi. Okay,
how can people reach us?
They can email us. You, my friends, can email us at mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com, and our website is mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com, and we have a form that you can submit your stories if you want to. So send us stories. Send us something to make us laugh, to freak us out, to gross us out.
Yeah.
We'll read it on here. I guess if it's terribly terrible, I don't know. We might have to monitor, but then we'll respond to you personally.
Send us something you want us to investigate and find out more about.
Yeah.
We will do that.
So thank you for listening.
Be
sure to like, follow, recommend, rate, do all that good stuff.
Yes, tell your friends to give us a listen.
We are and where you listen. And have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.